Ever spent like hours cleaning up data in Excel?
Yeah.
Like fixing typos and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Trying to make sense of all these inconsistent entries.
It's the worst.
Well, okay, get ready. Because today we're diving deep.
Oh, deep dive.
Into a Power Query function that might just change your life.
Change my life.
Okay, maybe not change your life, but
okay.
It could definitely save you a ton of time.
Okay,
It's called fuzzy clustering.
Fuzzy clustering.
Fuzzy clustering. And we're going to be unpacking the official Excel documentation.
Oh, wow. Official documentation.
On the table, an AddFuzzyClusterColumn function.
Catchy name.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But trust me, it's way cooler than it sounds.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So what's so cool about fuzzy clustering? Well,
lay it on me.
Basically, it lets us group similar items together, even if they aren't exactly the same.
Okay.
Like what if you have a list of fruits, but some of them are misspelled?
Misspelled fruits, what do you mean?
Like you have apple, but then you also have apple, with just one P.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Fuzzy clustering can group those together without you having to go in and manually fix everything.
Oh, that's pretty handy.
Right. And it's not just for simple typos either.
Oh.
This function is super powerful and can handle all sorts of variations in your data.
Like what?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Fuzzy matching is kind of like how we think in the real world.
Oh, we think.
Yeah, like things aren't always perfectly categorized or spelled correctly in real life, right?
That's true.
And this function takes that into account. So instead of forcing everything into these like neat little boxes,
right,
fuzzy clustering
right,
lets us group things together based on like similarity.
Yeah.
Even if there are some differences. It's it understands that apple and apple are basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though they're spelled differently.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this is incredibly useful in real world scenarios too.
Oh yeah. Like what?
So let's say you're a marketing analyst.
Okay.
And you're working with a bunch of customer data. And you've got all these inconsistent entries for cities.
Inconsistent entries.
Yeah, like some people might have put New York.
Right.
Some might have put NY.
Okay.
And then you might even have some that say like New York, with a typo.
Oh yeah, typos happen all the time.
Exactly. And fuzzy clustering can group all these variations together.
Wow.
And that gives you a much cleaner data set for analysis.
So you don't have to go through and fix every single typo by hand.
Exactly. It saves you so much time and effort.
That's amazing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So how does this magic actually work?
Yeah, break it down for me.
Okay, so at its core,
yeah,
the Table.AddFuzzyClusterColumn function basically adds a new column to your table.
Okay, a new column.
And this new column groups similar values from an existing column.
Gotcha. So it takes one column, looks for similar values, and then puts those similar values into a new column.
You got it. But the real magic.
The real magic.
The real magic lies in the options.
Options.
Yeah, there are all these different options that let you fine-tune how the function works.
Ooh.
And that's where we're going to spend most of our time today.
All right, let's get into it.
So first up, you have the culture option.
Culture.
Yeah, this one lets you specify the language rules for grouping.
Language rules.
Yeah, like the different languages have different rules for things like sorting and comparing text.
Oh, okay.
So you could group items based on like Japanese rules or English rules, for example.
Interesting.
But honestly, for most of your work, the default setting, which is invariant English, will work just fine.
Invariant English.
Yeah, it's basically a generic English setting that covers most cases.
Gotcha.
Okay, so moving on.
Okay.
We have the ignore case and ignore space options.
Those sound self-explanatory.
They are.
Yeah.
But they're also lifesavers for tackling those common data entry headaches we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, the typos.
Exactly. So ignore case will group apple and apple together.
Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter.
Nope. And then ignore space will handle those typos with extra spaces.
Extra spaces.
Yeah, like if someone accidentally types grappes with a space between the R and the A.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that happen.
It happens. But with ignore space enabled, it'll group that with grapes correctly.
Nice.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay, so now let's talk about the similarity column name option.
Similarity column name.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more technical, but it's super interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So basically, this option lets you peek behind the curtain a bit.
Peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, like it gives you a score for how similar items are to what's called their representative value.
Representative value, what's that?
It's essentially the most common or agreed upon value within a cluster.
Oh.
So like if you have a cluster of apple, apple, and apple,
yeah,
the representative value might be apple because it's the most common spelling.
Makes sense.
And then the similarity column name option will give you a score for how similar each of those other spellings is to apple.
So like apple might have a score of 0.9 and Appel might have a score of 0.8 or something.
Exactly. And this score helps you understand how the grouping is happening.
That's really cool.
Right. It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how the function is making its decisions.
I like it.
All right, so now we're getting to the really exciting stuff.
Even more exciting.
Even more exciting. The threshold option.
Threshold?
This is where you fine-tune the sensitivity of the grouping.
Sensitivity?
Yeah, like how strict the function is about grouping things together. Think of it like a dial.
A dial.
Yeah, if you set the threshold low, even minor variations will be grouped together.
Okay.
But if you set it high, only very similar items will end up in the same cluster.
So lower threshold means more things get grouped together, and higher threshold means fewer things get grouped together.
Exactly. And the documentation gives this great example with grapes and grape.
Grapes and grape.
Yeah, so if you have a lower threshold, it'll catch that missing P and group them together.
Okay.
But with a higher threshold, those would remain separate.
So it all comes down to how strict you want to be with the grouping.
Exactly. The right threshold depends entirely on your data.
Makes sense.
And what level of similarity is important to you for your specific needs.
Gotcha.
Now let me ask you this.
Okay.
What if you want to define custom grouping rules?
Custom grouping rules?
Yeah, like rules that go beyond simple text similarity. Like what if you're working with a recipe database?
A recipe database.
Yeah, and you want to group grapes with raisins.
Grapes and raisins, why would you do that?
Because they often substitute for each other in baking, you know.
Oh, I see.
That's where the transformation table option comes in.
Transformation table.
Its option is like super powerful.
Okay.
It lets you have complete control over how items are grouped.
Wow.
Like you can create a table that says grapes should be mapped to raisins.
And then the function will group them together.
Exactly. And what's even more intriguing
Intriguing.
is that this transformation kind of cascades.
Cascades.
Yeah. So if you map grapes to raisins, then grapes are sweet would automatically group with raisins are sweet.
Whoa.
Because the function recognizes the relationship between the terms.
That's pretty amazing.
I know, right? It's like it understands the meaning behind the words.
This function is way smarter than I thought it would be.
I told you it was cooler than it sounds.
You were right.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Have.
From understanding the basics of fuzzy clustering
The basics.
to exploring its really powerful options.
Super powerful.
But what does this all mean for you?
Yeah. What's the takeaway?
Well, the applications of this are practically endless.
Endless.
Practically endless. You could use this to deduplicate customer lists,
Okay.
group similar product descriptions, even categorize open-ended survey responses.
Wow.
It's a tool with incredible potential to transform the way you work with data.
No kidding.
So here's the question I'd leave you with.
Hit me with it.
How can this tool help you solve data challenges in your own work?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What new possibilities does it unlock for you?
Lots to think about.
I encourage you to dive into the documentation yourself.
Yeah, check it out.
Experiment with this function and see the magic for yourself.
See the magic.
Until next time,
Until next time,
happy clustering.
happy clustering.